And Trent broke that record last
as a
year
junior.
with
Yeah.
a year to go, people. And his brother Blake played at a few places and was actually offered to walk on at Indiana.
Yep.
Mike Woodson wanted him to play there, but
Right.
he just decided he was done with that. But you heard us talking about Mark Zachary as well. I, I, I think he ends up at Notre Dame, maybe playing football, and hopefully they'll let him play basketball or wherever he goes. He's such an incredible athlete that, man, and he defensively and as a point guard, he's a wrecker. He wrecks things when he's out there.
Yeah, he's a game changer. I've watched that Indiana elite team. I know I've told you on here several times. I've watched them play, and Mike Fox does a great job coaching that team. Those guys play so well together. And the tournaments that I've watched, Mark Zachary hasn't even started. Now that a lot of that has to do with he has other commitments. Maybe he's not at practice all the time. By all those things, he's
Well, he
definitely
joined late. He joined this
and
team
he's
late.
definitely one of their best players from the standpoint. I don't mean that statistically. I mean that from I think they play really, really well together, and their best basketball when he's on the floor. He kind of, you hear glue guy a lot on different descriptions of guys, but if you're going to describe a guy that makes everyone on the floor a little bit better, I think Sisley's a little better. I think Mullins is a little better. I think Malachi Moreno's a little bit better when Mark Zachary's on the floor with them, and that's because he's your great point guard that you have that's not looking for his own shot, but he's very capable of making shots and scoring on his own. And boy, when you're described as that as a point guard, there's a lot of different teams that are going to want you. And the incredible part about him being an athlete, they say he's a better football player than he is basketball player. I've never seen him play football. But I'll just say, like, he must be really, really good because I know in basketball, he's really, really good.
Well, that tells you if he's so sought after as a DB, a cornerback is to me, it's one of the toughest positions in all of football.
Sure.
Quarterback is number one without a doubt because of
Sure.
all the thinking you have to do and recognition and that. But as a DB cornerback, you're on an island. Number one, you're out there by yourself. It's one-on-one. It's also something you have to be fast enough and quick enough to play the pass, but tough enough to play and smart enough to play the run.
Yeah.
It's just a thinking man's position. Point guard. He's obviously just a quick thinking, smart, quick athlete, and looking forward to seeing what he does, as well as the rest of the guys, Braylon Mullins and all those. I think they have a hell of a chance of winning that 3 SSB title down in Rock Hill, South Carolina this summer.
They really do. I mean, those games, they can start to go. AAU games can go a bad direction. Like they get bad officiating, they can get something or whatever, but they're not going to be out talented by the teams that they play. And like I said before, numerous times on your show, they play better together than your average AAU team. Like you can kind of tell they all kind of like each other and they enjoy playing. They're not necessarily out there to get statistics, even though that seems to be what we talk about a lot rather than the wins and losses with them. But they're they're a different kind of team. They're as fun of a summer basketball team as you're going to find to watch play if you just enjoy good basketball. Like they're incredibly, exceptionally talented, but man, they play well together and they share the ball, and that's not things that are used to describe summer AAU teams very often.
Yeah, and of course Indiana and Purdue, they're basically in a fight for Trent Sisley services. He's being recruited by other people, but to me, this particular one is going to come down to Purdue and Indiana. He's just a kid that neither want to see leave the state. I'm sure his parents would like to see him stay in state as well, so they can watch the games a lot easier. But they have recruited. There's no one that has recruited him harder than Purdue and Indiana. So, and either of those are a good good choice for Trent Sisley and his game. His game will translate into either place very, very well, and he will be welcomed by the fans of either of those programs.
Yeah, no question about that. Like he's, I say this a lot, and it goes back to last year when Liam McNeely decommitted from Indiana, and a lot of Indiana fans, kind of take that I don't want to say the wrong way. They take it personally, and I get it. Look, I'm an Indiana guy. I take it personally because I think Indiana is the greatest. Okay, so let's just put that there the way it is. But when you look at a guy like Liam McNeely, he's not from the state of Indiana. He's not probably planning on living in the state of Indiana after his basketball days are over. It doesn't mean the same thing to him playing for IU or Purdue the way that it would a kid that's from here. And that doesn't mean every kid that's from the state of Indiana has to go to IU or Purdue. It just means if you look at what it's going to be, are they going to be down the road, when they're 50 years old, introduced at the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, living in the state of Indiana? It means something a little different when you're from.
It's an opportunity of just something that not everybody else can get to enjoy.
And like I say this all the time because I'm fortunate enough to get to be on a lot of radio shows and a lot of talk shows and go to a lot of golf events and go to a lot of different things. And I'm always introduced at those things as Indiana All-Star, Indiana state champion, those things. And like, they can never take that away. Like, no matter what people try to say about you or try to do or whatever, like, I'm
state
an Indiana
champion,
All-Star forever. Yeah. They can't
state
take
champion,
my ring away.
I mean,
they can't take that stuff away. And being from the state of Indiana for the rest of your life, those Indiana All-Stars this week, those guys that are seniors, they're going to be introduced as Indiana All-Stars for the rest of their lives in the state of Indiana. Now, you move off to Michigan or Texas or wherever it is, like, it's not as big a deal. They're probably not going to mention that you were an Indiana All-Star. But for the rest of your life in Indiana, they're going to.
And I know this is a little different, but no one has done that better than Damon Bailey. Of course, he's got a few more accolades, but I look at someone like Pat Graham down in Evansville, who has just still, I mean, it doesn't go away. Like you said, Indiana All-Star, boom, it's there for life. Yep. You're a state champion, boom, that's there for life. The NCAA, the threes you hit in the Duke game. I can't imagine how often you hear about it, because I know how often I hear about it.
Agreed.
So it's something that just doesn't go away.
And I've explained that, like, I've used that in, I don't want to call it a recruiting tool, but just to make athletes and recruits understand that it is a factor. It is a deal. If I lived in Texas or Florida, I very seldom, I think, would ever have someone bring up Jamal Meeks and the Duke game. And I'll say, like,
then
it's Monday.
Passed it to you.
It's Monday morning right now. I will guarantee you that at the end of this week, that will be brought up to me in the state of Indiana at least 2 or 3 times. Like, it happens every week. No matter, I'll be at a gas station and somebody will say something about it. And that's just the fun part. Like, I can't imagine what it's like for Damon Bailey or like Alan Henderson, someone who's 6'10" and all of that, who's cannot go unrecognized. I mean, I could throw my hat on and throw a hoodie on and people are not, I don't look a whole lot different than everybody else that's in the gas station, but Alan Henderson can't do that. Like, he's not going to be able to hide from people at his size, and he's recognizable in the career he had in the NBA. Like, all of those things factor into it. And so, yeah, that's why you say a guy like Sisley and Mullins and those guys, that's why Indiana and Purdue and Notre Dame and Butler have a little edge in recruiting when it comes to those in-state guys. But it's not the sole determining factor. It's not going to shock me if those guys do end up going to, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, somewhere different. Like, everybody is in this process for their own reasons and what they want out of it. And you got to make that determination and make that, I use a great example, Jim. You're not asking me this question, but this is a great example. Take Reed Shepherd last year from Kentucky. Now, is it not obvious that kid knew from the time he was 3 years old, if he had the opportunity, he was going to Kentucky because of his parent, his dad and all that? Like they played at Kentucky. So that was written in stone. Had that guy gone to, how many Division I schools are there? 330, whatever there are. Had he gone to any of the other 330 schools in all of the country, he would have started and maybe been the leading scorer on the team. But he chose to go to, the legacy school that his family had gone to. And that was the extreme benefit for the University of Kentucky, because, that kid's a great player, and he didn't even start, and he's going to get drafted in the first round here later this month.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and thank you for enjoying our content and videos. And make sure you hit that subscribe and notifications toggle so you don't miss out on anything, whether it's Indiana Hoosiers, the Boilers, the Colts, the Pacers, Indiana high school action, whatever's happening in sports. We're trying to bring it all to you, and make sure you don't miss out on a thing. Again, hit the subscribe button for us. Helps us out a ton. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much.